Cool. Yeah, well, we're up and running.
Hey,
It's an exciting day. It's the first inaugural voyage, I guess, of the Hornets Abroad podcast. My name's Jeff Fadig. I'm the study abroad coordinator at Sac State. Got a really special guest for y'all today. Do you go by, is it Douglas? Can I call you Doug? Is it,
yeah, you can call me Doug. It saves time. It's more economical.
Yeah, so Doug Andreasen going to Indonesia, and he's going to talk a little bit about that. Pretty interesting, not just trip, but experience that he's got lined up. So yeah, maybe we can just go and you can tell us about your summer plans, kind of how you ended up going to Indonesia. It's not the first place that a lot of people would think about. So yeah, just kind of whatever off the top.
Yeah, so this summer I'm headed to Malang, Indonesia with a program called the Critical Language Scholarship. It's offered by this agency called the American Councils for Education, and it's specifically under the Department of State. So it's like a government scholarship. And the goal of the scholarship is to sort of get people to learn languages that the United States has deemed critical for international relations. And so not a lot of people in America speak Indonesian. And that goes for a lot of countries, right? Like United States has decided they need a lot of Chinese speakers or a lot of Korean speakers. And so they encourage people to do that with these scholarships and just have Americans go learn the language. And the cool thing is that it's open to pretty much everybody, especially Indonesian. You don't need to have any prior experience in the language. With languages like Chinese and Russian that are a little harder, you do have to have prior experience. But Indonesian is one of the ones where you need no experience. And so I applied and I got in, and that's sort of the short version. And yeah, I guess we could go over the rest of it. I mean, that's the whole point of the podcast. So
yeah, let's drill down a bit into that. Because I mean, how did you decide to? How did you decide on Bahasa? There's other languages too. I think you can speak without much experience. So what was that about that in particular that appealed to you?
Yeah. So I was thinking about it, and a lot of the locations were places that it was all basically the same to me, right? You could go to India, you could go to Azerbaijan, and then I thought Indonesia was a pretty crazy one because it actually has like the fourth most people in the whole world, like a really high population of people in Indonesia. And it's a really widely spoken language, just it's really localized. And I thought it would be pretty cool to apply. And by total coincidence, I'm a history major. My history advisor is like the guy at Sac State who knows the most about Indonesia of any of the faculty. He's written papers and wrote books about the topic of Southeast Asia in general. And I told him I was going, and he said, I will write the best letter of recommendation you've ever seen. And I think that was probably a stroke of genius on my part just to put those things together. I was really happy I was able to do that. It just seemed like the stars aligned in that regard. And as far as coming up with the idea to apply for the scholarship in general, I was really just looking for scholarships that anybody could apply to across the country, right? A lot of scholarships are highly specific. And if you're not a highly specific dude, you kind of want something that's open for everybody to sort of increase your chances. And critical language scholarships open to every single person in the country, and even non-citizens, I think, too. So it's really worth your time to do it.
Yeah, sounds like a little bit of destiny that you had an advisor who was so linked in with Indonesia, and it just like you said, the stars kind of aligned. So
yeah.
Do you have any plans? I guess maybe you'll know a little bit more after you get there and you see the lay of the land. But do you have any kind of idea about where this might or how it might influence your future path after you get out of Sac State?
Yeah, sure. So what the scholarship wants to see when you apply is they want to know how you're going to take the knowledge that you learn in the scholarship and apply it to the rest of your life, right? So they want to make an investment in you, and you should be willing to use the skills later. And I've already thought about this in a couple ways. So there's a couple of different paths for people who want to be social studies teachers like myself. And I've tried to get ahead of the curve a little bit, and I've been looking at the teachers union agreement with the school district. And a lot of them have stipulations where you can take a year off to teach abroad and you keep your job. And that sort of opens up an opportunity for myself to go to Indonesia, teach whatever because I know the language, and then come back to have my job waiting for me, which I think is pretty cool. And another thing the critical language scholarship does is it gives you non-competitive employment for any federal job. And so what that means is if you want to apply to the FBI, for example, it's really hard to get in because you're just some random dude. Non-competitive employment basically makes it so when you apply, it's as if you were already employed in a different department and you just applied internally. So it's really crazy and gives you an incredible leg up for applying for federal jobs in the future, because they basically don't have to hire you. They just have to put in your information and you get the job. It's pretty intense.
Yeah. Yeah. The way I've heard it described is they just have to create a place for you.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, it's a huge advantage. I think kind of what you were saying just now too reminded me that in the Peace Corps, which is something, there's maybe some crossover with that and CLS in that they're both government programs. But if you go to teach English in the Peace Corps, then when you get back to California, they'll just give you a teaching certificate. So you don't actually need to go to like teaching school or whatever. But yeah, so I had a friend who did that. So it might be something and I think the Peace Corps actually has locations in Indonesia as well. So it could be something where you could just go and do that and then not even worry about going to like grad school because you'd already have your teaching certificate when you get back. So yeah, it's just a good example kind of how one thing, can lead to another, and then how you can connect it back to finding a career here at home. So is there anything, or what in particular are you looking forward to about going to Indonesia? Anything you're like really excited about, or anything you might think is going to be a challenge? How are you feeling about, because you're leaving pretty soon, right? It's the end of the month.
Yeah, less than a month, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. So one thing I'm really excited for is I like to do stuff that's kind of unorthodox when I go travel. And my goal is to eat the fast food there and see how it's different from American fast food. Go to an Indonesian Burger King. I think that'd be really funny. And it's always a treat. But really, what in the critical language scholarship, you sign a pledge to not speak the language that you already speak. For your duration there, unless you have to, obviously, it's an emergency. And so the goal is that you go the entire time there only speaking Indonesian, not using English to talk to anybody in your cohort. And that's, I think, probably going to be the best part, but also the hardest part, because the more I think about it, I've only spoken English for 25 years, and I think about it and I'm like, man, it's kind of integral to the way that I think, right? So it'll be really interesting to have that all flipped upside down. I have to think and speak in a language that, nobody really has any exposure to it either. That's why it's a critical language.
Right. Have you, now, do you already speak another language, or have you had experience living in a country where, English isn't the first language?
Yeah. So I've been to Korea. My brother speaks Korean for the military. My other brother speaks fluent Spanish, and I took Spanish in middle school, and I think I failed. And I took sign language in college, and I thought you only needed one semester to transfer. You need two. I've forgotten all of sign language. And so the linchpin of this entire scheme is you also get college credit for the language that you go learn overseas, 2 semesters worth, which gets you out of Sac State, which is crazy. And that's probably one of the biggest on paper benefits, is that if you're early in your college career and you haven't taken your foreign language class yet, you have theoretically 3 opportunities, 3 summers in between, to take your foreign language class with the critical language scholarship, get paid for it, and have a really good time while you're doing it. And I think that's one of the biggest benefits that nobody really thinks about.
Yeah, that's huge. I mean, it's really practical, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, this kind of, you alluded to it just now, but basically everything's paid for, right? Your flight, your living situation, you get a stipend as well.
Yeah, as far as I understand, everything is paid for: plane tickets, the lodging while you're there, and they're supposed to give you $1,000 just to live with. And I think that's even greater now, because normally you stay with a host family, but because of the ongoing pandemic, you probably have to buy your food a lot. And so they're giving you even more money. And there's an additional stipend for people who have extraordinary need. You can just apply for it and you get $300 more just to help you live for 10 weeks.
Nice. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure that's going to go a long way in Indonesia too. So
yeah.
further than it would go in SAC.
Yeah.
Nice. So, so how many other people are in your cohort? Have you started talking to them yet, or have you do you know anything about who you're going to be studying with?
Yeah, so it's 25 people total, I believe, and out of I think they say that 10,000 people apply to the entire program, and 1,000 people get in generally. And Indonesia is one of the ones with only one location. China has most locations, so they have like a couple hundred people. But in Indonesia, it's 25, and there's a group chat and a Canvas page for the students, and we've all been talking about what we're going to do on our weekends off and stuff. And I should also note that they say that when you apply, there's a 10% chance for any one person to get in. And I think those are pretty good odds for the amount of time that you have to invest in order to actually get in. You just write a couple of essays and fill out some forms. A couple months later, you find out if you're going to Indonesia or not. And if you get 3 chances to apply, I think it's a pretty good deal.
Yeah, that's, I mean, and especially if you have kind of an insider like you had with your advisor who can
for sure.
Yeah. Would you, are there any like real like application tips you would give people like specific to CLS, but also maybe for, you know, if they're applying for other scholarships out there?
Yeah, I think a lot of the people, this goes back to the last question, a lot of the people there, they have a really good personal narrative. And I think if you've applied to a university in general, this is one of the things they tell you about, is to sort of sell yourself and your life story. And that's definitely part of it. There are multiple essay prompts that you do, and one of them definitely involves your life story. And for CLS specifically, the most important one is to talk about how you plan on using the language now and later. And if you have a concrete plan and a way to get to your end goal using that language, you're basically a shoo-in. And also, there's no reason to tell CLS that you're not going to use their language. That'd just be silly. You want to let them know exactly what you plan on doing with it every step of the way. If you want to go teach abroad, and you know, Japanese is one of the, like, it's one of the main destinations for Americans to teach English, and it really helps to learn Japanese while you're there. So if you want to teach Japanese in the future, or teach English in Japan in the future, let CLS know, put that in your narrative. Say, I want to go to Japan, learn the language, and come back and be a teacher there. And that's one of the like the most common use cases for the critical language scholarship. There's a million other ways you could use it, but definitely let them know your plan to use the language in the future.
Yeah, and I would add to, you know, as somebody who helps people with scholarships myself in my job, even if you don't have a concrete plan, just make one up, because CLS isn't going to like come after you in a couple of years to see what you actually did after you get done. I don't think there's actually like a work requirement with it, like some of the other, like with Boren, you have to work for the government for a year. But you know, it is, I think you're right, it is really key when you write these applications to kind of tell people how it's going to fit into your life plans, and not just stop at, you know, the summer abroad, but what are you really going to do to carry it through? And I think, you know, teaching is always one good thing. You know, a safe one too is if you can tell people you want to go work for the government, you know, even if you don't, it's always something that gets their attention. So yeah, that's really really good advice. And did you have with your professor, did he help you at all with the application beyond just beyond writing the letter, or did he, you know, did he help you like revise the essays or anything?
Yeah, he met with me on Zoom to talk about what I would be doing there, and he's heard of the program too. I think he was a Fulbright scholar, so he kind of was familiar with the process, and he let me know, like, well, talk about how you're going to use it in the future. And I sent him my essays, and I think they might have just been fine, so he didn't edit them or anything. But yeah, he definitely encouraged me to let them know, like, well, how are you going to use it, and how are you going to keep using it in the future? Because, like I said, it's an investment for them on some level. It's a very giving program. Like, they're not like sticklers about anything. It's generally a positive experience, right? Like, you think about government programs and how harsh they are with like the military and stuff. It's a civilian program, and it's very chill, and they're not going to come hunt you down if you change your plans or anything like that. And it's generally like I guess you would call it like bestie vibes. Like it's all just positive, you know, and they're there to help. They're there to help you thrive, and maybe in the future you work for the government. You encourage cultural relations abroad. One of the things they impress on you is that while you're abroad, you're a citizen diplomat, like a representative of America, and the goal is just cultural exchange, really.
Yeah, that's huge. I think that's something that a lot of students, it's a little bit of a shock to them, especially, I mean, you've been abroad too, and especially with your brother in the military, you've probably had that, you know, some insight into that. But I think the fact that students, when they go abroad, people treat them as an American, not like, you know, you have to take kind of the hyphen out of the identity, right? You're not like a European American or an African American or Asian American or, you know, any of the other backgrounds that we have here. And we have a lot, obviously, but you know, you've kind of become the spokesman for America.
Yeah.
And that can be kind of difficult if you haven't really thought about how, you know, your nationality affects your identity. And I think that's something that's a real benefit because it gives you a little bit, it kind of buttresses your identity in ways that you might not have thought about before you go somewhere. And so that's something that I think, you know, anybody going abroad, you know, and as a college student needs to keep in mind that it's like, yeah, you're representing now, you know, now you're the citizen diplomat and you're representing, you know, Sacramento and Sac State and the country. And on the flip side, you get a lot of like people's complaints coming at you about the US because, you know, foreigners have a lot of strong opinions about the US. It's not a country that people are neutral about really. And so that can be a little bit unsettling if you're not used to it. But I think, you know, since you'll be with your cohort and in that, remind me, do they give you like an Indonesian like language buddy or anything to help you out? Or
yeah, they give you a partner that you study with in the cohort, and they give you an Indonesian language partner who lives in Indonesia as well.
Yeah, so that'll be really helpful because you'll get a nice like kind of personal guide to the culture.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then those, you know, those students too are going to be really interested in where you're coming from, and so it's going to be a real learning experience for them as well. Have you been in contact with your language buddy yet, or not? You won't find that out until you get there.
Not yet. I think once we get closer to the leaving date, they'll probably get me in contact with them. But I did have to. One of the first things I had to do was write a letter in however much Indonesian I knew, or just in English, just saying hello. How are you? You know, I'm excited to try the food or whatever, just to open up the dialogue.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. Like the more, I guess the more like legwork you can do at the beginning, the easier your transition will be when you get there. Because yeah, it'll be a big change. But you know, I'm really excited to see how you to see what you do over there. You know, you're the first Sac State student since 2014 to get this scholarship, and I think that's a real credit to you. And you know, I'm really excited, and I'm really because Indonesia is kind of one of these off the beaten path places where not a lot of people go, even in the traveling community. And so just to see kind of, you know, what you do over there, how life is, it's something I'm really curious about. And I think people will be interested in hearing about it as well. So I'll definitely be emailing you when you go to Indonesia and trying to see if we can get a time that works. If not, then when you come back too, we can kind of like do this again, because I think you'll have some really cool stories. And yeah, I hope, you know, I'm excited. You're probably excited. So
yeah, yeah. Thank you for everything. And yeah, I'm really excited. Like once on the website, you're able to check who from your college has gotten the scholarship before. And once I saw that only one person had gotten it since 2014, I was like, wow, like I got to tell somebody about this, right? Like I want to represent Sac State. Like people talk about how it's like an anchor school. It's very community based and people kind of commute to it or whatever. But I like the school and I want people to know, and I want to, you know, put the school on the map and do whatever I can to promote the school. And yeah, I just thought this was a really cool opportunity. And if not many people are getting it, you know, let's change it. People should apply.
Yeah, for sure. You know, I think that's one of the things we kind of, I think traditionally as a school, we have kind of suffered or, you know, lacked a little bit of students going abroad. You know, for the amount of students we have at Sac State as a total student body, I think, we're kind of one of the lower per capita that sends people on study abroad programs. So hopefully, if we can generate a little bit more awareness, people like yourself showing these opportunities are out there, people will start to see the appeal of going abroad, because I think really, not only are you going to learn about another culture, but living abroad and being able to look back at our own country and from an outside perspective can really give you a different insight on that as well. And so, I think it's just a really important thing to do to become a more well-rounded person and more informed. So yeah, just well done on that, on getting the scholarship. It's really, it's really impressive. So yeah, keep the Hornet banner high while you're abroad. And yeah, we'll check in again soon.
Awesome. Yeah. And, last thing, I guess, is if I can do it, anybody can. I know it's kind of like a platitude at this point, but I was in community college for like 5 years, taking like 2 classes a semester. And I passed them all, of course. But the point is, you don't have to be like one of those super scholars who went to UC Davis, first year in college or whatever. Like, I'm just a transfer dude who lives in Sacramento his whole life. If I can do it, then pretty much anybody can. I think it's just a lack of awareness, or people realizing, wow, you actually can get it. You could just be a regular college student and get it.
Yeah, well said. I couldn't have said it better myself. So I think with that, that's a good note to end it on. I'll let you get to studying for finals. I know you got those coming up. But yeah, we'll touch base again, and thank you for being on the podcast. I think really excited to see where this goes and where you go with your travels, and good luck to you, and stay safe out there.
Absolutely. Thank you. Good start for episode 1 too.
Okay, perfect. Yeah.
Awesome.
All right. Yeah. Sounds good. Well, yeah, take it easy, and we'll talk soon then.
Yeah, for sure, man. Thank you so much. And yeah, if you email me, I'll at least be able to tell you that I'm too busy if I am, but I don't think I will be. I only like 6 hours of class per day. It's not even like a full day. So I think I might be able to get something going.
Cool. Yeah. Well,
awesome.
We'll try to set something up then.
Great then. All right. Talk to you later, Jeff.
All right. Thanks a lot, Doug. Yeah. See ya. Well, the first episode is in the books. Hopefully you all thought that, got something out of that. I think Doug really wrapped it up well by saying, these opportunities are open to anybody. You don't have to be like, a top scholar from like a top, UC or Ivy League school. Anybody can do it if they just kind of put their mind to it. The opportunities are out there, and, our offices would love to help you if you're looking to go abroad. We have a lot of different programs. And so we hope to hear from you soon, and thank you for listening.